Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today. We're here reviewing Straight Outta Dudleyville, the legacy of the Dudley Boyz today. This was a really good documentary by WWE. It definitely was better than the Eric Bischoff one that I watched the other day. I can honestly tell you that I knew a lot about the Dudley Boyz from watching their career throughout the years. I was lucky enough to go to a few ECW shows in Atlanta. They would run Atlanta a few times a year. They would go to... Duluth, Georgia is where they used to go at the Gwinnett Civic Center. I got to see Spike Dudley against Bubba Ray. I got to see Devon versus Taz in the main event of my first ECW show. I'll always remember that. They were a damn good tag team. They won every title there was to win in tag team wrestling in North America. These guys won the ECW titles, the WWE titles. They cheated. They won the WCW titles through the Invasion. They won the TNA titles. They won the New Japan titles. They've won every title there is to win from here to there and back and forth around the world. I'm sure they've won more tag team titles than I even know about from their career. But the Dudleys always to me are going to be probably in that top five. From growing up, I was a WWF guy. Demolition's always going to be my number one tag team, followed by the Legion of Doom, the Road Warriors, because I never saw them as much as I saw Demolition, and Demolition's always going to be that team that sticks out of my mind that I saw that was like, fuck, these guys are awesome. I'm not sure if the Dudley Boyz are number three, but you've got a lot of good tag teams, the Orient Express, the Rockers, the Hart Foundation, a lot of that stuff. The Killer Bees are a damn good tag team. They're definitely in the top five. They're definitely a WWE Hall of Fame. I'm guessing more than likely they're going to be some sort of, I don't know, the Observer Hall of Fame is hard to predict and it's hard to figure out. Maybe someday they get into there. But Straight Outta Dudleyville. Go out of your way. I'm pretty sure this isn't on the network yet, so I picked this up on the $5, $10, $15 sale from WWE Shop. I'm glad that I did, because I'm glad that I was able to check this out finally. It comes with a really cool slipcover that folds out to make a table. But I learned a lot about these guys. It starts out like every documentary there is, learning about them coming from New York, them getting into wrestling, and then getting trained. Definitely, I think Bubba Ray is connected to the mob in some way. I think they've joked about this on Chris Jericho's podcast a few times. Learned about them coming up in ECW, the fact that they didn't have theme music because they wanted to come out and hear the history of booze. There's an awesome video on YouTube. There's the compilation of Bully Ray and Devon calling the fans out to fight in the ring. If it's still up, I don't know, but I can remember that I've seen it, and I loved every second of it. There's one where basically a fan jumps out of a balcony and comes to the ring to answer, Bubba Ray, his call to come down and fight him. He gets into the ring, and they basically have to tell the kid it's a work, get back over the guardrail and get back, because nobody from Atlas Security jumped in to stop this kid from hitting the ring. But there's lots of videos of them going up and starting trouble with the fans at ringside, not being scared to get into a scuffle. Lots of them punking out fans and fans reacting like, "Oh my God, I can't believe that he really did it. I can't believe that he really hit the hat off my head." He really are scared. They really were true heels. This documentary, for the most part, is shot in the secret bus at Monday Night Raw when they made their return, the Raw after SummerSlam last year. And now here we are, a year after, and the Dudleys look like they're out. They're already taking indie bookings. They're going to be on some House of Hardcore shows with Tommy Dreamer. As we've seen with Tommy Dreamer, as we've seen with Rhino, and other, guys from the past, this doesn't mean the Dudleys are done in WWE. It just means that they basically don't really have anything for them right now, and we're going to have to see what is in the future. Do I think we've seen the last of the Dudley Boyz in WWE? No. Do I think the Dudley Boyz had their last full-time run, working pay-per-views, working TV, working house shows? Yeah. I think that part of the Dudleys is done. But seeing them pop up for here and there along the way, they came in, they hyped up the fact that the Dudleys were 9-time tag champs. They were looking after that 10th. They had battles with the New Day. I thought that they were really going to change the titles when they had the Beast in the East show. No, that wasn't the Beast in the East show in Japan. Because, or maybe it was. Maybe that's why all the New Day was there. I think that on that show, I think they did do the Dudleys versus the New Day, but then also Kofi Kingston wrestled as a single against Brock Lesnar. But I'm not 100% sure. But there was a point they were overseas doing something, and I thought they were going to switch the titles there and then switch them back, maybe at the Madison Square Garden show or something like that. I thought they were going to do something special on the WWE Network, and they ended up not doing it. We never saw the Dudleys win that 10th title, so it is what it is. But maybe someday down the road, we see him pop up on Raw one night during some sort of a... what were those matches they used to do with tag teams back in the day when they used to bring them out, the gauntlet matches or something like that? But they got some special name for him. But I thought this was really good. Definitely, they talk about, killing it in ECW. Bully Ray saying that, definitely put him and Devon together as a team, and they could really, do some stuff and make some business happen in ECW, and it did. It got to the point where basically Vince Russo wanted to bring in the Dudleys, but Vince Russo didn't want to be the guy to call the Dudleys, and the Dudleys knew that they didn't want to be the guys calling WWE, because it sort of shows who is in control of the negotiations, who wants who more. So basically it was a writer stepped in and basically put these guys on the phone together, and everybody told everybody that they wanted to work together. Next thing you know, the Dudleys were coming in. The one thing that as they were watching it, I was hoping they were going to talk about Public Enemy, because right before the Dudley Boyz debuted, Public Enemy, who were ECW guys that also were WCW guys, so these were hardcore guys that sort of got softened up by the lifestyle of WCW, then came to WWE. I'm not sure if it was WWE wanted the Public Enemy and they stole them, or Public Enemy just wasn't needed by WCW anymore and they were released and WWE picked them up just because they were sort of a name. There's a lot of different reasons why guys got passed around back in the day, and sometimes it was because somebody didn't want them and somebody just wanted them because the other guys didn't want them. It is what it is. But the Dudley Boyz sort of had to pick up everything being an ECW team that the Public Enemy dropped the ball on. They talked about the story of basically 10 minutes before a match. The Public Enemy told the Acolytes that they weren't doing the job, and the Acolytes went out there and made them do the job. Went out there and beat the fuck out of them, and they were released. I think the Public Enemy's run was a lot like Buff Bagwell's run during the Invasion. They were on one, maybe two shows, and they were gone. WWE didn't want to have to deal with the egos that they had. Public Enemy, I'm sure, left, and I don't even know what happened to them. They sort of faded off into oblivion. I'm guessing they probably had some ECW time after that, but if you've been in ECW, WCW didn't want you, and WWE didn't want you, what are you really going to do? So I'm not the biggest Public Enemy fan, so I'm not going to be able to remember what happened to them after that failed run, but I definitely do remember how bad that run was, and they talk about it. And the Dudleys had to come in. They had to go down. They had to beat up the Acolytes. They had to hit them with some 2x4s. They went down there and they basically waffled the Acolytes as hard as they could, because they knew in the back they were going to get it. The Acolytes got their retribution. They said that everybody piled out of the back because everybody wanted to see how everybody was going to react to this, thinking that it was going to be a real-life fight. The Acolytes beat up the Dudleys. They yelled, "Cut." The Dudleys jumped up. They shook the hands of the Acolytes, said, "Thank you very much. It's going to be an honor working with you guys." And the Acolytes, Ron Simmons and JBL, were stunned. They couldn't believe that these guys took a whooping and didn't want to, whine and cry and complain about it. But from there, they never had any problems. And then from there, of course, they talk about the TLCs, the Edge and Christian, the Dudleys and the Hardys pressing themselves together for those three really big matches. But they didn't really talk about the fact that they had a whole bunch of singles matches. Everyone's always going to remember WrestleMania 16. Everyone's always going to remember SummerSlam. Everybody's always going to remember the TLC 2 at WrestleMania 17. But the tag team division at that time was great. And it wasn't just the Dudleys. It wasn't just the Hardys. It wasn't just the Hardys, the Dudleys, and Edge and Christian. Those three teams were the three teams that everybody remembered because they were included in those three matches. But there was the New Age Outlaws. There was the Holly Twins. There was the Acolytes. There were so many teams that filled up the tag team division. That's probably one of the last golden eras of tag team wrestling in WWE. In 2005, 2006, TNA recreated some of that magic with honestly a lot of those teams. But SmackDown's getting close, and it's one of the reasons why I've almost gave in to starting to watch SmackDown, because of American Alpha, because of the Usos, the Hype Bros. I know the Acolytes are there, and not the Acolytes, the Ascension is there, and there's a few other teams, but it seems like SmackDown is starting to really care about tag team wrestling, so we'll see what that leads to. Coming out of there, they talk about the draft and how they busted up the Dudleys. They weren't together. They weren't apart all of that long. Bully Ray got a singles run. They didn't put it over as well as I remember it. I remember him standing up at Triple H and having a main event match on Monday Night Raw for the title. In that match, Bully Ray picks up Triple H, tries to drop him through a table, and during that, something in his arm just gave out, and he drops Triple H, and Triple H, I think, hits his head on the edge of the table, and at that point is when Bully Ray's push was killed off. That match was probably the last match. If they had another one, it was probably just Triple H killing him in some sort of a smosh, and they went on from there. But people remember Brother Devon is either great or really bad. It didn't last that long. Most people remember Deacon Batista, but it was Bully Ray as a preacher who went out and fought. Deacon Batista was his muscle. They passed around a thing. They took dollars from the fans. Batista's talked about it. Devon has talked about it. They kept that money at the end of the night, whether if it was a house show, whether if it was television. It was one of the good kickbacks of that gimmick, and both of the guys liked it. They didn't understand why it lasted long. But at Survivor Series, they were put back together, and at that point really is when their career started to sort of skid off, because they didn't have a lot of tag teams. They stopped caring about tag team wrestling around that time. Edge and Christian had broken up. I think by that point, the Hardys had either broken up or Jeff had been released, and Matt was only there as a solo. So there wasn't a lot of teams to work with, so they were just sort of floating around. Even if they were tag champs, they really didn't have much. If you think about WrestleMania 19, they wrestled for the tag titles against Lance Storm and... who was Lance Storm's partner? Rob Van Dam? Or Kane, or somebody. But their match ended up getting bumped to the pre-show because there just wasn't enough time and not that many people cared about it. So they talk about the fact of after ECW, One Night Stand, their contracts were cut and they left. They went to TNA. They talk extensively about their time in TNA, keeping the Dudley name, keeping the Dudley name alive as not being allowed to be called the Dudleys. That was a real fight back then. I guess there was a thing where Paul told the Dudleys that they owned the Dudley name. When ECW was sold to WWE through the bankruptcy courts, they took on all of their trademarks, which means they kept the Dudleys. And the Dudleys really didn't want to go to a full-on court fight over the name because they didn't want to ruin the chance to work with Vince down the road. They didn't want any bad blood. They took on the name Team 3D. They wrestled a lot of matches. They wrestled in Japan. That was one of their goals that they really wanted to do. And Bully Ray got to become Bully Ray. He got to fight as a singles. He got to become World Heavyweight Champion. He got to work with Sting. He got to work with Hulk Hogan. He got to work with AJ Styles. He had a really, really good long run. And Aces and Eights was one of the best things that was going in TNA for well over a year. It was mishandled and misrun. Same thing with the NWO, so it is what it is. But the Dudleys got to the point where they were done with TNA. Bully Ray, of course, made the return at the Royal Rumble. After that, they made their return. They worked for a year after SummerSlam. They never were able to win the 10th title, but they were able to finish their career in real fashion, wrestling for Vince and WWE on the main stage. So I don't think they did anything at this year's WrestleMania. If they did, it was on the pre-show, and my ass was standing outside and not able to get in, so I don't remember it. But, well, one hell of a run from these guys. Maybe this is one that gets better in time. The more you think about it, you think about how great it is. But 4 out of 5 stars, maybe a thumb up and a half instead of 2 thumbs up. So we'll see what goes down. Peace out, everybody. Straight out of Dudleyville.